Hi everyone, welcome to our maths
Hi,
lessons for this week. I'm Charlotte, this is Jenny, we're here from the
hi
Bursary
everyone.
Foundation, carrying on with our masterclasses. Today we're going to be looking at applying your algebra knowledge that you've been looking at over year 5 or year 6. So, how do we feel about algebra, Jenny?
Bit scared to be honest. It's been a while.
It's been a while for me too, to be fair, but it's fine, we can do this. So,
Yeah.
let's quickly recap over some of the core knowledge we
Yeah.
need for this then. Algebra is basically just a fancy way of doing inverse sums.
Yeah.
Okay. So if, for instance, I've said, 60 divided by blank is 5, how would I
Yeah.
solve that as an inverse?
So 5 times what equals 60?
Yeah. And 5 times table, the answer's got to be 12 for that.
Yeah.
There's always a few seconds of these videos where I remember I do actually need to click on my annotate tools. Okay. Or this one down the bottom here. So 3 times something minus 4 equals 14.
Okay, so I would say 14 add 4
Mm-hmm.
is 18. So um 18 divided by what equals 3?
Yeah, so we'd basically have 3 multiplied by blank equals 18. And then at that point, we're doing exactly what you've just did. So 3 times table, 3 multiplied by 6 equals
Yeah.
18. Okay. All that's happening in algebra is that we're taking this blank and we're just replacing it with a letter. It
Right.
doesn't matter at all what the letter is, or it just means that letter stands for a missing number.
Okay.
So, for instance, if I have 5 plus y equals 21, if that y was a blank space, what would I do?
21 take away 5 equals the something.
Mm-hmm, exactly. So 21 minus 5, well, I'd do take off 1 equals 20, take off 4 is 16. So y then must equal 16. That's really all we're doing. It's extremely unlikely that you're going to be presented with anything significantly more complicated than this for the majority of even 11 plus papers. There
Right.
might be some entrance exams for independent schools that will put some trickier multi-step algebra right at the end of a paper. But for most of the 11 plus style exams, it might be spaced out in a much wordier question, but actually, all you really need to do is use this exact same skill here. Okay,
Okay.
so same for this two-step one here. N plus 2 times 5 equals 30. So I need to use my inverses again. So I'm going to say, well, I'm going to do 30 divided by 5, which is
6.
And then I've got n plus 2 equals 6. So what must n be?
Must be 4.
Yeah, exactly.
Can I ask you a question
Of
there?
course.
How do we know it's not n add the answer to 2 times 5 equals 30?
Um, so you're thinking about Bidmas and Bodmas there essentially. With these particular questions, generally speaking, they go in reverse rather than following Bidmas in this case. Usually it will be fairly clear if you need to use Bidmas because there'll be multiple steps.
Right, okay.
Okay.
Yep.
So I've kind of done this is a longer version of the kind of thing we're looking at down here.
Right, okay.
So with these ones
Okay.
down the bottom, this is where I'm thinking about stuff like 2a
Yeah.
or 5c. All we mean by that is 2 times a or 5 times c. So if I have something like 3b plus 6 is 28. What I mean by that is 3 multiplied by b plus 6 is 28.
Okay, so we're going in order.
Yeah, generally speaking, that's how it's going to work. If they need you to use BidMath for something like this, normally they'll tell you that's the case.
Okay.
The other thing we can think of here as well is if we're going in reverse, multiplying something by 5 would still be the reverse, so we'd have to do 30 divided by 5 first anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, so if this one down the bottom here, I've got 3 multiplied by b plus 6 is 28. I can't do 3 times b yet anyway, thinking about BidMath, so I've got to subtract 6 first.
Mm-hmm.
So if I do 28 subtract 6, what am I going to get?
22.
22, yep. And then we'd have, 22 divided by 3 is going to get me the answer to B. In this case, difficult. We're going to get a decimal number.
Yeah.
That's okay. You can end up with decimals with this sometimes. That's not a problem, as long as you follow your method through carefully.
Okay.
All right. Do we feel happy with all of that?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, brilliant. Let's have a look at some more exam style.
I think it's just a case of not being scared of the letters when it's the first time you're coming across them, isn't it?
Yeah, essentially. And letters can look a little bit scary, but if you remember it's just an inverse, then it's not too bad. So I've split my exam questions up into a few different types. I've got a machine style question and a riddle style question. The machine ones you've probably seen in practice SATs papers for reasoning. Before you've got a robot or you've got a machine which does a certain bunch of sums and pops out a number at the end. So this machine multiplies a number by 5, then subtracts 3, and the answer it gets is 117. What number did it start with? So as I've written out here, what we actually need to do is say, a blank number multiplied by 5, subtract 3 equals 117. So I'm going to write my machine out as if it was an algebraic equation, or in other words, a sum with a blank number in it. Now we've done that, all we need to do is work backwards through the stages in order to work out what n is. So what do you think is the first thing that we'd do here?
So you've got to add 3. So 117 add 3.
Which is?
120.
And then what?
And then divided by 5.
Yeah. 120 divided by 5. So super quick maths. Then 5 into 12 goes in twice. Carry over the 2. That's 5 into 20, which is
24.
So we know then that n equals 24, or in other words, the number that was put into the machine is 24.
Yeah.
So question 2 then. A robot divides a number by 6, then multiplies the result by 2. What number did the robot start with?
So we've got 10 comes out. So a robot divides a number by 6 and then multiplies the result by 2. So we're going to have to divide by 2 to start with.
So before we do that, let's write it all out.
Yeah.
So we've got our number n. What's the first thing we do to our number?
Okay, n divided by 6. Multiplied by 2.
Yeah.
Equals 10.
Equals 10. Brilliant. So now we need to go backwards.
That's so 10 avoided divided by 2.
So 10 divided by 2, which is
5.
And then what do we do to that 5?
So we need to times it by 6 because we're doing everything inverse.
Exactly. And 5 times 6 is 30. So we can see them writing that out avoided you making the pitfall you very nearly made there, because you started saying to me, I need to start doing a bunch of dividing by 6 and timesing by 2 and things like that. It's super easy to get yourself into a muddle, so write this section out first just to make sure that you've got that correct.
Yeah.
Okay. And once you've done that, actually, once you've written out your sum, you can work out the answer super quickly, because it's just basic skills with adding and subtraction and so forth.
All
right. The second question type we've got then is what I call the kind of riddle style questions.
Right.
So this is where a kid for some reason has decided to work out the ages of their family by doing a bunch of weird sums rather than just asking their family how old they are. Don't know why. So Wendy, for instance, has quartered her grandmother's age and then added 3, and she gets 18 as a result. So the first thing that I might think about with these riddle questions is going through and underlining the different stages. So what's she done first? Well, she's quartered her grandmother's age and then she's added 3. So I'm going to put in G for grandmother here, because why not? Doesn't really matter what my letter is, it might as well be. So if Wendy quarters her grandmother's age, what sum has she done?
Divided by 4.
And then what's the next thing she does?
Added 3.
And we get 18. So if we are going back in the other direction, what are we going to do?
Take away 3. 18, take away 3.
Which is?
15.
And then what do we do to 15?
So we must times by 4 instead of dividing by 4.
Yeah, exactly. Because we're going back in the opposite direction, doing the inverse.
60.
60, brilliant. And that gets us that answer there really quickly and effectively. So we'll do the same thing for this next question. I've given this one a few extra steps just to give it a bit more of a challenge level. Sometimes this kind of question can come up in things like verbal reasoning for riddle questions as well. So this kind of riddle style way of doing things is really, really worthwhile working on. So what do we find out first? Well, Asad's dad is a year younger than Asad's mum. And Asad's mum is 3 times older than his sister. And the sister is 2 years older than Asad, and we know that Asad is 10. So let's start writing this out then. So let's start with his dad. So if dad is a year younger than mum, that means that we've had to say, well, mum minus 1 gives us dad, or m minus 1 equals d, for instance. Do we know how old mum is?
No.
So let's write something out for that. So what do we do to find out mum's age?
We know that mum is 3 times older than the sister. So mum equals 3 lots of sister.
Yeah, so I could write m equals 3s if I was going to be really fancy and mathsy about it. Or I could just say, slightly more simply, mum is sister times 3.
Yeah.
Doesn't really matter which way you write it, just depends on what's easiest for you to understand. Do we know how old the sister is?
No, but we know that she's Asad plus 2.
And do we know how old Asad is?
Asad is 10.
Okay. So what I'd do then, now I've written this out, is go back through each of the stages. So can I now work out how old the sister is?
Yeah.
How old's the sister?
So she's 12 because she's 2 years older than Asad.
Great. Can I now work out how old mum is?
Yeah, 12 times 3. 36.
And can I then work out how old dad is?
Dad is 1 year younger than mum, so we need to do 36, take away 1, which is 35.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I typed 25 there. I'll get that right in the end. All right, so that means that then that Dad is 35 years old.
Not too tricky then.
No, I think these original ones are actually okay because we're using our algebra skills in order to solve them.
Yeah.
But we're breaking it down into lots and lots of different stages. You could, if you want to, write it out as one long chain of letters and numbers if you find that something easy to work with. But I
Yeah.
think if you break it down like this, if you're not a fan of algebra, it's a lot easier to picture everything that's going on.
Yeah.
Okay. So hopefully that was really helpful for
Yeah,
all of
that was
you.
good.
We've applied a bit of algebra, we've worked out how to do it. If you feel like any more algebra would be useful for you to go with, get in contact with us, let us know, and tell us what you think of the rest of our videos. Otherwise, we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.